try and love me like you never felt. I need you alone. Heart was breaking, a love I was taking. I wanted to know. Got the feeling that love was on the outside. You want me to find. Got me thinking love isn't the answer. Well, no time. I think about the love we left. I think about the love we had. You and me both. You wanna touch me. You want the real thing. Gave you what you wanted. The elevator comes down sometimes. My mind is on fire and I don't think it's coming down. So tell me now. So tell me now. When you find someone, tell them how you feel. 'Cause tomorrow isn't promised. Love is always honest. If you wanna find the real deal, relax your mind. Just take it slow. No need to rush. Just feel the flow. I want you now. No need to wait. Tell me, are you ready?
My microphone. Why was my microphone muted? Ah well. Could have sworn I unmuted that microphone. So I guess it has been a silent stream up to this point, despite the fact that I was forgetting to talk anyway. When I was talking, it was completely silent. Oh, I guess my brain is tired today. I was actually falling asleep at one point while I'm just doing this. That's when I started talking about air conditioning for no apparent reason. Just don't know where that came from. I've been doing a heck of a lot of lifting and moving, so physically tired, I guess, but that has sort of translated itself into my brain doing weird things. On the edge of sleep, I guess. Not enough CPU cycles to do pyrography and talk at the same time. Darkening that down a bit there, you might not see it, it could be more too subtle for the camera, but just making it darker. Potentially do that just by going over it again and again and again. Now I actually, one of the things you could do this with is a knife edge tool. Or a hot knife. Same thing really. But I actually find that the tool I'm using gives a finer result, a more hair-like result than doing it with a knife. If you do it with a knife, it doesn't seem to colour the groove in the same way. And again, going quiet, I noticed it. Ah dear, hopefully you don't mind. Now when you're doing this, one of the things you have to do is employ a different technique, because what you don't want to happen is to create little black blobs, as you get in some places, at the start of every one of your lines. When you touch this pen down onto this wood, if you don't want a blob, the pen should be moving as it touches down. Which is a technique I also apply when I'm doing airbrushing, by the way. Exactly the same reason. You get a blob at the end if you touch down and then start moving, or in an airbrush terms, you start spraying paint and then start moving your airbrush. You will get blobs at the end, and if you stop and then stop your airbrush and then stop the paint, or in this case stop the movement and then raise it off the wood, you'll get a blob at the end as well. So little miniature dumbbells or lifting weights. And the other side of the head goes the other way.
Of your hand, you got me paralyzed. You are perfect in every way. 'Cause you are something of a masterpiece. You're all that I dream of when I fall asleep. You show me the way that I believe, the way that I believe.
Now in some ways it's not so bad that this isn't a uniform 100% black. Apart from if it was, you wouldn't see any details at all. But it does sort of automatically almost put what could be described as a highlighting. So like there and odd bits in the hair, it kind of looks more realistic. And this is really just something I found rather than sort of come up with the technique. I've just done it and found, hey, that's what it looks like. More touch-up needed, but that's definitely looking like hair. Okay, more drink. So, tonight's a really quiet night here on Twitch. If this wasn't a commission, I'd be tempted to leave it until tomorrow night. Which I may still do, but I do like to get commissions done fairly rapidly. Ooh. Hot fingers. Okay, so let's come back over this, darken it down. This brown is too light. And again I'm quiet. Oh dear. Please excuse me, anybody who's watching. This is a portrait. It's being done for a commission. It's of David Cassidy. It was commissioned before his recent death, so it's not being done in response to that, but just a coincidence. So I'm making it darker. Just doing it by going over the area again. Potentially doing it slightly slowly to get the darker colours to come through. But essentially I'm still following the same pattern in that I am effectively just, drawing individual hairs, but drawing individual small tiny clumps of hairs maybe, just to give you this sort of hair-like impression. This camera's showing it really dark, but I don't know if that's showing up there. I guess this is actually one of those cases where it's actually slightly better here in person than the camera. Often the camera seems to make things look better, but in this particular case, this hair texture, certainly I think the camera just isn't picking up with sufficient resolution perhaps to see. Okay, let me tell you a little bit more about Zaragan Art, the studio, as opposed to Zaragan Art, which is me, or Zaragan of Zaragan Art, which is me. Although these days I go by the title Zaragan Art rather than Zaragan. So it says below the stream window that I'm a variety streamer, and indeed you'll probably find I am streaming in the variety category, and that is because I do lots of different crafts. Well, lots being 5 or 6 now. But not just one thing. So you might wonder what those crafts are if you've never seen the stream before. Well, this is one of them. Pyrography, the art of cooking wood. To sort of... Actually, I like that as a phrase. Mangle it a little bit, which is, I guess you're mangling it a little bit. Art, as in art of cooking wood. Oh, never mind. But that's one of them. Another one is relief carving. So using hand chisels, not the big mallet-based chisels, but hand chisels. I carve relief carving. Relief carving, if that's not something you're familiar with, then think of an object, and if you cut it in half, sliced, took a layer through the centre, and then stuck that onto a board, it would kind of, that's kind of like a relief carving. But to all intents and purposes, really what it is you relieve your image from the piece of wood, generally leaving a backboard on the wood. So it's not a full 3-dimensional carving. You don't carve the back side. Then after that, there's something called scraper board. That's it's quite an interesting material. I was going to say really interesting material, but it really depends on your point of view. What it looks like when you get it is a black board. Sometimes they're on a wood backing, and sometimes they're just cardboard backing. That black is Indian ink, and that's been coated over the top of a layer of china clay. And sometimes instead of the china clay, they might use like silver reflective foil or something like that, or multicoloured foil. So you've got a backing board of some kind, wood, plastic, whatever, it doesn't matter, and it's been coated with china clay or a foil of some kind, like a silver foil or a gold foil or something, and then coated with Indian ink. And once all that's dried, which is how you usually buy the stuff, there are some people that make it. I'm not one of them. But once that's effectively dry, if you like, or you've bought it from the shop which is dry, then what you do is you use sharp implements. Now often you do see for sale quite a few implements. They look a little bit like ink pens or dip pens, I believe they sometimes get called. You dip the pen into the ink, there's no cartridge or anything on it, and it just has a small reservoir. So they kind of look like that. But you can use anything like a scalpel, a sharp pointy object, a piece of wire wool, anything that will scratch the Indian ink off the top. So when you scratch the top off, what you do is you leave a line of white. The Indian ink has disappeared, and you've just got the china clay, and that then is how you form your picture. And you might do that using, I don't know, different techniques like wider and thicker lines. Wider lines look whiter, thinner lines look darker. So different combinations of those. And you can also put lines closer or further apart from each other. Put them closer and it looks lighter, put them further away, it looks darker. And you can form your image that way. Now that's a great medium if you want to do night things, shall we say. So like somebody, for example, somebody on stage, it's dark. Black background works wonderfully. Space images, because space is dark, it's black, and that's the one thing Indian ink is, it's really black. Then space scenes are fantastic to do on that medium. He says, suddenly thinking, that might be an interesting idea to do something, but not yet. So what else? We've talked about scraper board, we've talked about relief carving, you're watching pyrography. That leaves two others, both of which I have to remember. And that's often interesting to do. So the fourth one is a type of jewellery making. In this particular case, generally speaking, that will be ring weaving. But we also will do some crystal work, which is crystal stringing. Well, in this particular case, sewing crystals together to form a necklace, for example, or incorporating them into a ring weave to create a bracelet. We usually, not always I guess, because that's what I've used, use Swarovski crystal for that. Now then, what's the fifth one? I always have problems remembering 5. Usually get 4, but can't always remember 5. So we've got pyrography, we've got the scraper board, we've got the relief carving, and we've got the jewellery. So what's the fifth one? I know there's 5 that we've done quite a bit of. But now I am struggling to remember what that fifth one is. Wow. Because the jewellery is sort of 3 or 4 different things, like kumihimo braiding, as well as the chain weaving, as well as the bead weaving or bead sewing or weaving, as well as the other thing I mentioned. Oh dear. Yeah, at one point I wrote them all down in an envelope. I don't actually know where the envelope is, because I always have this problem. I can remember 4 out of the other one was punchcraft. What's punchcraft? Crafting punches. Sort of. Punchcraft. Named. That's probably it's not a generic name, I don't think, for it, but it's actually a manufacturer's trade name. What you do is you punch a needle through material, and when you punch it through, it carries a thread. And what you effectively end up doing is making miniature rugs. Because that's exactly the technique which is used to make rugs, is punching a needle, carrying a thread through a backing material and pulling it back out again, leaving a loop of material. And that's effectively what we do, but with a manual tool. Hence miniature rug making, because you can make rugs, you can make smaller things than that, but miniature because whilst I use one needle, when they make rugs they're probably using hundreds of them all in a line, stabbing them through in unison to each other. That looks quite 3D actually. I've got the hair angles correct. Something is a bit odd around there. That transition is just a little bit off. That looks a little bit better. Yes, Punchgraph, that was the 5th one. I always have a problem remembering one of them. I can usually remember 4 but not the 5th. But since then we've done things like magic dots, glass engraving. I wouldn't say wood engraving, but actually I'm not sure we've done any rotary, high-speed rotary carving. May have done that, may have not, I can't actually remember, but that is something which I can do now. We have also done airbrushing on stream, did 3 or 4 pictures actually. Monochrome, it's one of my favourite mediums is monochrome. This is monochrome. Monochrome, chrome meaning colour, mono meaning one. Although strictly speaking, well I suppose a colour isn't a shade. So you have lots of different shades or tints of the same basic colour. So I was about to say this isn't monochrome because it's got different different shades of the brown in it, but then I corrected myself because of course a shade isn't a colour. Well, it is well, sort of. I'm not going to get into that. When is a colour not a colour? When it's a shade. That's still fairly. So doing this on a cat, you can imagine, takes an awfully long time, which is why when I did Theo not so long ago, I actually decided to try and do him flat without this hair sort of texture. It looks different. For cats I actually prefer the hair texture, it looks more natural. Kind of looks natural for people as well. Now that transition fairly subtly, well, fairly quickly I guess rather than subtly, but it's working. Yeah, and I have been also on stream, for example, in the past we've built a quadcopter on stream from start to finish. I didn't do any of it off stream, and indeed whilst I couldn't fly it on stream. Can't get a camera out into the garden that easily. Well, I can get a camera out there, I can't get a broadcast camera out there. So I did record the flying, and then we watched it on stream. So I can say I sort of flew the helicopter on stream. I mean, in principle, I can actually fly a helicopter in this room. It's big enough. Is the room even for the, well, not for the biggest. I'd fly either quad in here, I guess. But I wouldn't want to fly the 450 helicopter in here. Technically, there's probably enough room. If I cleared the floor, that is. But that's always an intimidating model to fly. Which is kind of weird because I used to fly 60.6 cubic inch 10cc helicopter with about a 4-foot diameter disc. So it's both blades together across the rotor disc, or rather I used to try and fly that because that was a long time ago. These days there's all sorts of aids which make flying helicopters significantly easier than they were when I was a lad, which I'm quite actually glad about. I mean, I never actually managed to hover the other one. Didn't break it either, which was nice, but I guess I should have been a little bit more bold with it, really. Because the trick with model helicopters is to get them up, off and away from the ground. They become well, it actually applies to real ones as well. They become a lot more stable once they're above something called the ground effect, which is where the air being pushed down by the rotors bounces off the ground and comes back up and pushes against the rotor. It's a bit like trying to balance something on top of an upward pointing hose. It gets quite difficult. Get out of that effect, get away from where the air is bouncing back, and it becomes a lot more stable. Okay, so just lots and lots more. I'm sort of trying to get some of the basic sort of angles in. Oh, what was that program? Just a phrase I was just hearing then, it reminded me of Captain Scarlet. Yeah. Now that's also a name from history, isn't it? Although I have got a feeling it's still broadcast and or still being made. I'm not sure. Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons. Is that looking... Well, at the moment it's kind of looking a bit weird, but Okay. Now then, tomorrow night's stream, not quite sure what's happening with that. I do intend to do some streaming, but I do also have some other appointments. Now, I think I'm going to be okay to start the stream around about normal sort of time. What I'm not sure about though is what time I will be ending it. I shall know more tomorrow, I think. And I'll be able to let you know. Ideally via Twitter actually is the preferred way in which I would do that. Okay, what I'm going to try and do, I think, is, well, I'm going to try and finish this hair, and when we finish this hair, that will be the end of the stream for today. Although I am probably about 30 minutes off finishing it. Now normally you try and do curves from the inside like this. It was just helping me to be able to see the things more by doing it the other way. Doing it the other way though takes practice. It's a lot more natural and easier to do an inside curve than it is to do an outside curve.
As we sipped on our glasses of wine, and you looked at me with that spark in your eye.
But it is worth something, practicing to be able to do outside curves as well as inside curves. Sometimes you get a better view, as I was doing by using an outside curve, and also sometimes you just can't get in the right sort of angle with an inside curve. So from time to time I do like to practice outside curves, as I was doing a little bit ago, just a few moments ago. I was doing it because it was better, I was getting a better view of what I was looking at and better access. So I wasn't doing it just for practice, it was being practiced whilst I was doing it.
Take you home, make you never wanna sleep alone. Shake you, baby, right to
Fingers are getting hot working with this. So the only thing I can't actually understand too much why, unless my fingers are actually creating an updraft of warm air, which is dragging the air from the tip up towards my finger, because otherwise the heat would, as you can imagine, would just want to go straight up. But it doesn't, it seems to want to come and torment my finger. Okay, I am obviously not going to be saying much tonight. Hopefully what I'm doing speaks louder than words. Now, so even the fact that I had forgotten to unmute the microphone, because one I had, well, I'm sure I tried, so either I muted it instead of unmuted it, or it didn't accept the unmute command when I sent it. Maybe I didn't push the button enough. I'm going to have to, I think, change the colour of the buttons. I've used the Stream Deck. What I think I will have to do is sort of make the microphone background sort of green when it's okay and red when it's muted. Just so that it sort of stands out more. Hair looks a little bit off, but it's not that bad. So just kind of sketching hair in here at the moment. And then we got to transition to being vertical around there. So you can totally sketch with a pyrographic pen. You just have to remember you can't erase it. So really quiet here in Twitch tonight. There are times when it's things like this that you kind of wonder if you're actually broadcasting at all. Okay, that's my hair outline. So now let's finish the job. Now it's more filling. Kind of looks like feathers at the moment. That featherlock has probably got more just to do with colouring than it is to do with shape or anything. There, doesn't look quite so much like feathers anymore. Not bad. This is definitely a job where you need to have patience. In the sort of accepted sense, I think I often think you don't need patience to do things like this. Maybe stamina is a better description, I'm not sure. But patience, I find, happens when something isn't going right and what I'm trying to do to fix it isn't going right, and then I kind of need patience. But generally speaking, doing stuff like this, I don't need what I would describe as patience. Although, having said which, you can become impatient with doing something like this, and try something else which sort of spoils it, perhaps. So if you can be impatient, then I suppose by definition you have to be, when you're not in that state, you have to be in a patient state. So, bit of an interesting sort of philosophical discussion there, I guess. My nose is itching. I think this might need a clean. Yep. Ow. Finger hot. Kind of always want to keep working. I don't know why. I mean, it's why don't stop sooner. When it first starts to get warm, I always seem to wait until it feels like it's burning before I stop. Can't quite work out the logic of that. Well, there's no quite about it. I can't work out the logic of that. Why would I do that? Bit of a weird thing, I guess. I have to be careful as well. I find I sometimes end up pyrographing to the beat of the music. Right, and sometimes I then have to consciously sort of stop doing it. Here's a little bit light on this side. Okay, not bad. Not bad. So I think that will do for tonight. Not bad. Close. Not bad. It'll do. It'll do. That's the wrong word. I'm satisfied with that as a result. And I don't need to do any more to it. I might do a little bit more work on dark and light areas, but essentially I'm happy with that. As it stands, which allows me to move on. But that's not going to be tonight. So what I'm going to do now is start the process of closing down the stream by pointing out the blue boxes here at the bottom with all the URLs in it. There's YouTube, old archives going on YouTube. There's Twitter, great place to know if I'm going to stream, not going to stream. When I'm going to go live, I tweet just before I go live, for example. Or if there's something happening that's going to stop me going live. And Facebook, got a bit more information in Facebook, of course. Zorganart.com, my own website, work in progress, intended that I will have a bit more about each of the arts and crafts and the images that are on there, if you'd like to read more about them. Some are up there already, some are on the way. The shop, zorganart.etsy.com. Selling some of the jewellery that I make helps to provide funds for doing this work that we do on stream, whether it's buying wood, buying rings, engraving bits, scraper board, all of these things. Unfortunately, lots of them these days, craft materials, aren't necessarily very cheap, so with that there's a subscribe button up there. So if you'd like to consider subscribing to the channel, those proceeds help to provide the materials that go into the art forms that you see done on screen. And of course there's a follow button there as well. Follow me. You'll get the notifications from Twitch if you happen to be logged into Twitch, I guess. And I'll also be there on that front page. Following front page, that is. You know, following. Live. I'll be there. Tomorrow night, hopefully, there will be a stream. Check it. Keep an eye out on Twitter. I am expecting to stream at the normal time, somewhere between 7 and 8 PM UK time, probably closer to 7 PM, but I don't actually know until tomorrow. And I'm almost certainly going to be finishing at 9 o'clock, and it will be a hard stop at 9 o'clock, a very quick finish, because I have something that I have to do immediately after that. But with that, I'm going to say thank you very much for watching. Yeah, you're late. You're 2 hours late, Wolfie, and I'm just closing the stream. Sorry, standing up because I've been sat on this stool and it's a bit hard. Recording a YouTube series with your friend, well, that's more important. You'll have to watch the VOD, of which I seem to, at the start of this broadcast, have once again managed to not unmute the microphone. Despite, I know I pressed the button, so I either muted it somehow or I didn't push it properly and didn't notice it. So the start of the VOD is muted. You'll get the music but no microphone. You'll see me talking, no voice. And then I notice it and fix it, of course. But as I was about to say, with that, we've finished for this evening. Thank you for watching. Wolfie, thank you for dropping in. And I'll see you tomorrow night. Bye for now. Indeed, Wolfie, you are correct. Everything goes wrong.